G'day and welcome to the channel. After taking thousands of images in 2022 and reviewing hundreds of images from my beautiful subscribers and members, there were certain images that just made me stop and take notice. And it got me wondering why. Why are there certain images that we can't help but look at? Why do some images evoke emotions in us like awe, wonder, excitement? What I want to do is break down the elements of those amazing images and share that with you so you can implement it in your own photography going into 2023. For example, here's one of my favorite images of 2022. It's a shot of some backlit cormorants. I absolutely love this image. What I want you to do is just have a look at this image and maybe jot down or just think what comes to mind. What do you think about this image? What emotions does it evoke? Why does it capture attention? Why do you think this is a good image or a bad image? Let me know in the comments. By critiquing these images, it helps us identify what we like, what's important in images, and helps define our style. Of course, what I deem to be memorable is completely subjective. You're likely to have a different opinion, and that's great. These different opinions mean we get lots of variety in our shots, and it's not just all the same looking images. What I'm doing today is sharing with you what I believe to be the key components and great images that I like and that I've taken and that I've viewed. So I also need to stress that it's really rare and difficult to get these memorable shots. I took thousands of shots last year and only a handful of them are what I would call truly memorable. The majority of the time I'm just getting what I call field guide or catalogue worthy shots. Those are shots that I put on my website, and that's my goal when I go out to the field, is just to continue adding images to my website. However, sometimes those opportunities pop up like it did with those cormorants. And the key is understanding when those opportunities arise, making the most of it. And hopefully after today's video, you'll be able to identify these key moments and these key opportunities and make the most of it. For example, I took this shot of a yellow-billed spoonbill and I really like this image and I have added it to my website. The light's great, the detail's great, the angle's good. However, it's just missing that little something. That's something special that makes it stand out from other images like I've seen of this species. Now, when I show you the next shot of the same species at the same location with the same gear, what's your immediate feeling? What do you think about this image? Do you like it more? If so, why? Why do you like it? If you prefer the first image, ask yourself why. Now, I prefer the second image because the wings are up. It's because we've got some sort of action. We've got some sort of behavior. The image quality is fantastic. It's unique. I haven't seen this before. Therefore, it lifts it up to that above the first image. And that's what we're going for out in the field. Now, the only reason I was able to capture this shot was a royal spoonbill has actually landed nearby and they've chased each other. And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And the autofocus has tracked the bird as it's playing in the water with its wings up. That's what we're waiting for, and that's what we're hoping for when we're in the field. So these memorable shots should just be a bonus to us. We shouldn't base our success off those sorts of images. Otherwise, we're going to be miserable most of the time, because I just don't capture that many, and I don't think you will either. And that's often a mistake beginners make. They expect, oh, I've got the gear, I've got the camera, I go out, why aren't I getting these shots? It's because it just takes time, and over time you will get those shots, trust me. So if we can enjoy the process of being out and just cataloging and capturing images, that's the key. That will keep your passion going, and that's what I do. I just head out there to capture what I can find, and if the opportunity pops up, happy days. All right, let's start with the first key element. I'm going to share this incredible image of a white rhino taken by my subscriber Cyril. Look at the image and note down what you like about the image. How does it make you feel? Why does it make you feel that way? Can you identify the elements or the reason for it? For me, there are a number of key elements, but the first and a very important element is the mood of the shot. And if we look at the definition of mood, it says an emotional state of mind or feeling. And for me, when I look at this image, I can't help but feel a sense of serenity. I feel like I've been taken to Africa and I can just look at this rhino and wonder, what's this rhino thinking? What is it in this moment? And the photographer has perfectly captured the mood of this scene. The complementary colors, the light, the composition, it's all fantastic. And it's very, very hard to do, but extremely effective when you see it like this. Another image that just screams mood to me is this wonderful shot by Dallin of an American robin. The feel of the image is just fantastic. The background colors complement the bird perfectly. We can't help but be drawn into the image, and I believe that's largely down to the wonderful mood that this image portrays. So what often gives these images mood is the inclusion of habitat, the weather, and the colors. Here's another example with wonderful mood by Pia, and this time a different robin. This image again has complementary colors, has that inclusion of habitat, which is so important in building mood. The misty dark feel from that drab weather really adds to this image, and I love that. And I must admit, I've been very guilty over the years of not going out in miserable weather or poor weather. It's often those conditions that result in great mood, so don't discount poor weather. So the second key element, and I cannot emphasize how important this is, and it is the light. I've gone on about the light in previous videos, but check out this image of a red fox by Mark. So in Mark's words, he liked this image because of the gorgeous early morning light that complements the fox's fluffed up coat. The frost on the grass provides a good contrast to the fur. So I totally agree with Mark. The light in this image is simply sublime. The soft warm glow on that orange fur, oh, it's to die for. And the fact he's got a dark background and he's got a nice low angle, he's using a 400 2.8, so he's got a very narrow depth of field, just isolates that subject and makes it pop. It's just a fantastic image. So I must admit, I've been a bit of a light snob over the years, and I've usually only gone out in the very best light, and that's a big mistake because I've missed opportunities before the sun comes up, after the sun's gone down, overcast, raining, etc, etc. So I made a point of trying to change that. And this image that you can see on the screen, this was taken before the sun had even come up. Now I would never have taken this in previous years, but I just like the backlit straw-necked ibises on this branch. We've got those cool clouds in the background which add a little bit of drama. It's not the world's best image, but I like it, and that's really important, and it's an image I wouldn't have taken. Now in saying that, some of the most beautiful light is our morning and afternoon light. It gives us that warm, beautiful glow. So this early morning shot by Johans is fantastic as we have that amazing color, the habitat, the bird, those cool water droplets, all these elements come together to create a wonderful image. I just don't think it would have such an impact without that light. So something I'm always striving for when I'm taking images is to capture some sort of behavior. Behaviour is so important in elevating those images. It generally has to do with mating, hunting, or some sort of feeding. The goal is to capture the species doing something in its environment because it makes it interesting for the viewer. They want to see what this species gets up to. They get a first eye view of what's actually happening. We can freeze the moment in that animal's life, and that's the key. Now I got lucky when I followed a pair of brown falcons in the wetland. One bird landed on a dead stump and called to the second bird, who came down and landed on the same perch. I couldn't believe it. I just absolutely smashed that shutter. I was using the R7, I think 30 frames per second, and just took a burst of shots as this bird's come down and landed. I'm holding my breath, hoping that the autofocus is locked on and that it's all come together. And when I reviewed the images, I was just over the moon that I captured that exact moment, that the bird's landed, the other bird's got its mouth open, welcoming it. It's just very, very interesting, because you don't see this sort of shot all the time, and it's very rare. This is clearly the best shot I've ever taken of these falcons, and I just happen to be in the right place at the right time. The second image, which highlights behaviour perfectly, is this flight shot of a great egret taken by Tom in the UK. The bird's just captured a small fish and it's in its mouth and it's taking off. And Tom's managed to capture that perfect moment. The bird's flying, the fish is in the mouth, we've got the reeds behind the bird. Just this entire scene is fantastic. As the viewer, we look at it and we just think, wow, how awesome is that? And it is awesome. I love it. Absolutely fantastic. I think one of my favorite shots that demonstrates behavior was a session I had with a sacred kingfisher. A little trigger warning here, it has captured something in its mouth, and what it captured was a little skink. And I was pretty happy to capture this behavior because it's unique and it's something we haven't really seen before. And I'm assuming that when you see this image, you can't help but stare at it and look at it, and that's what a memorable image does. So another very important element, and this is possibly one of the hardest to capture, is the story that the image portrays. What do we as the viewer think's going on? Can we get a story? Can we get some sort of emotional connection to that image? And again, it's very, very difficult, but I want to show you an image that portrays story extremely well. This fantastic shot of a mother and her cubs captured by Edward. Edward stated that the mother was actually herding the cubs away from an aggressive male, and to Edward's credit, he managed to get the entire family in the frame, and it's extremely sharp, and I really do like this image. So I captured this shot of a royal penguin a number of years ago, and I like this shot as we simply don't exactly know what's going on. The story in the shot is open to interpretation. What do you think is going on here? What was your immediate reaction? Do you want to know what's actually going on? Well, these penguins, as you know, they nest in huge rookeries of penguins, and when they swap parenting duties on the egg, one of the parents has to then navigate its way through this big colony out to the ocean. and often they come too close to the other nesting penguins and they let them know about it. So this bird here got too close, its neighbours were just having a go at it, saying, "You're too close, get away from us," and it's constantly doing this as it's waddling down through the colony. So I actually think wider shots enable us to have better stories, and believe it or not, I just received an image this morning from my member Gary which perfectly highlights this and has a great story. It's a shot of an azure kingfisher with a frog. How good is this? The colour, the habitat, the species, the action, the behaviour, all of it adds to the story and the drama, and it's just a fantastic image. I'm extremely jealous. I wish I'd taken that. Well done, Gary, and thanks for sending that in to me. So one key element that we can't underestimate is uniqueness. What is it about the image that is unique, that is different, that people haven't seen before? We want people to wonder what's going on so that they just stop scrolling and stare at that image. So the first image that highlights this extremely well is this unique shot of a pair of ospreys captured by Andrew. I think the key with this image is we don't actually know what's going on. Is the bird attacking the perch bird, or did it get its landing wrong? So what is actually happening is the flying bird is actually trying to mate with the perch bird and is going to land on its back for mating, as you can see in these later shots. The image also has exceptional image quality, the light's great, behaviour's great, and it just demands our attention, which is fantastic. So another image that I received from a member that just immediately struck me, I couldn't help but look at it, and it was this flying shot of a hummingbird by Marco. What do you think of this image? For me, I absolutely love it. I've not seen this before. It's a slightly different angle. I love the colour, I love the behaviour. It's just very, very unique. Now, out of interest, Marco actually sent me a number of different shots that he's taken on his Sony a7 IV because he knows I'm looking at that camera. So I opened up the 3 images he sent me, and I'll share those with you now and see which one jumps out at you and which one you prefer. So the first 2 images are traditional hummingbird poses. That is a side-on pose feeding on a flower. Now these images are excellent. The detail's wonderful, the flower's good. I would have been stoked to have captured either of those images. But when I've opened the 3rd image, this image just jumped out to me because it was different, it was unique. Was it the same for you? Let me know in the comments. Which one of those did you prefer? I like all of them, but it's this final image, because of its uniqueness, that made it special to me. So something else that's unique is black and white images. We just don't see them very often with wildlife. So when my good mate Mark Wright sent me a black and white image of the glorious wedge-tailed eagle, I like this image. I just had to stop and admire it. We've got good eye contact, the bird's majestic, and the edit and the black and white just lifts it up and makes it unique and makes us want to stare at it. I just want to quickly thank my channel members. If you're not aware, for the price of less than a cup of coffee per month, you can become a member and it directly supports me. And as a big thank you to my existing members and future members, I've created a digital calendar for 2023. I've included 12 of my favourite images that I took. We've got birds, we've got butterflies, we've got all sorts of things there. They're in 4K, so they're in high quality. There's one for every month, and you can simply get it by hitting the join button under this video. If you hit join, you can then become a member, and then you'll get access to the membership page on my channel page. If you scroll down to see more perks, you'll get a link to the calendar. You can download it and you can enjoy it. So thank you to all my existing members. Thank you to any of you who can consider signing up and supporting me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. So another important element is image quality. Ideally, we want the image to be sharp and full of detail. That enables the viewer to really admire the species or the subject in all its glory. So for example, check out this dragonfly I was able to capture. The detail and the sharpness is really good, and it's unique because it's a flying shot. And as the viewer, we often don't get to see this level of detail up close of a dragonfly. And that's kind of what makes it unique and special, is just the image quality of this. Now, another image that struck me with its IQ was this chickadee shot by Jean. It's extremely sharp, it's full of detail, it's got great mood, it's got good complementary colours, and I like the pose and the perch. And it all comes together to create a great image. So a simple way to improve your image quality is just to get as close as you can to the subject, shoot a nice light, and have a good quality lens. And member John Green did exactly that. He's actually visited a puffin colony. He had a really old camera, the Canon 50D, which I think is 15 megapixels. He's used a good quality lens, the EF 100-400 version 2, and he's managed to get amazing detail, and it's extremely sharp. And the reason being, he was close, nice light, nice lens. So yes, IQ is important, but there's another element which I believe is even more important, and that is the image should be engaging. It should ask us to look into the image and engage with it. One image that did just that was this wonderful image from member Kai of some Canadian geese goslings. The backlight feathers are so dramatic, it just makes you stare at the image. The uniqueness, the mood, the light, it just makes this so engaging and it's fantastic. Well done on that image, I absolutely loved it. Now, an image that I was happy to take this year and it was engaging to me was this backlit shot of two young kangaroos fighting in the morning sun. I love how the kangaroos are silhouetted behind the grass and the warm colour in the fog adds some drama and interests. So sometimes it can be really hard to articulate why an image is engaging, but boy do we know when it is. It's because we just can't stop looking at the image. Now here's another image that I captured, and a trigger warning here if you don't like creepy crawlies. I happened to be feeding my chooks and I noticed that there was a spider that had captured a dragonfly in its web. I've grabbed my camera and I've come back, managed to capture this shot of a spider devouring a dragonfly. Whilst it's slightly disturbing, the image holds your attention as you're trying to figure out exactly what's going on. Again, the uniqueness and behaviour contribute to this being an engaging photograph. Another important element is the composition of the photo. This can have a dramatic impact on the feel of the image. So composition is very personal, and I always suggest you crop how you like. However, there's no denying when the composition is right, it makes for an engaging image. If we look at this beautiful snowy owl by Dan, we can't help but admire the photo. I believe it's the composition. Our eye is drawn to the owl sitting on the rock staring off into the distance. The composition has given the bird space to breathe, and we just can't help but admire this environment and everything about it. And to me, it's the composition that's really lifted this image. Now, I've got an image I can share with you which highlights how important composition is, and it's one of my favourite images taken of a redneck stint. When we look at the raw photo, we can see that we've got a different coloured water underneath the bird, which is slightly distracting. So by cropping a wide, narrow shot, we get the bird and the beautiful reflection that excludes that distracting element. And that is ultimately what we want with composition. Remove distractions, allow the subject to breathe, and be easy on the eye for us to navigate around. With composition, I just encourage you to look at lots of different photos that you like, and hopefully the way that they've composed it or cropped it will influence how you crop your images in the future. Often it just takes time. For me, it's almost automatic now. I don't know why I like the way I like it. I just do it. It just comes automatically, and I'm sure it will to you as well. So another important element, and I did a whole video on this, is the eye contact and the pose of the subject. Boy, does it make a big difference how the bird's positioned or the subject's position. Is it looking at you? Is it staring off? What's it doing? This can definitely change the impact of the image. Now I want to share 3 images with you that I took of a sulphur-crested cockatoo. And I want you to have a think about which image you prefer and why. So let's take a look at the first image. It's front on, we have limited eye contact, but we do have the crest up and the wings out. So the second image is a nice side profile, and we have some good eye contact here. I do like this image. And then we have the third image. Extremely different pose. We've got great eye contact, the crest is up. Which of these 3 images do you prefer? For me, I much prefer the third image. And why? Because I prefer the pose and the eye contact. I just believe it's far more engaging. The bird's looking at us. It's just more fun to me, and that's why I take so many photos. I'm just trying to capture something that's unique, that's different, and it sort of speaks to me, and it's the eye contact and the pose that do that. And I did capture one image this year that I'm so happy with. It's a lot of fun, and I shared it recently. It's of this white-browed babbler. Look at where the head position is of this bird. It's actually looking between its legs, it's looking at me, and I've captured that exact moment. So we've got great eye contact, we've got a very unique pose, and it sort of makes that image. Now I took plenty of side profile shots that you can see here, and they're fine, but nowhere near as good as that first image because the pose and the eye contact is different. So I highly encourage you, put your camera in burst mode, take lots of photos, get good at deleting, but by taking those lots of photos, you're likely to capture the perfect pose, and it's really important. So an element that often has a huge impact is the subject itself. Is the subject unique? Is it interesting? Is it rare? Is it colorful? All these things add to an image. And for me, I just love hummingbirds because I haven't seen them yet, so they're quite special to me. So when I see images, I can't help but admire them. And one of those images was this rufous hummingbird by Phil. He emailed it to me, and I couldn't help but admire the beauty of this subject. Now the colors, the perch, the pose, the eye contact, it all adds to the image, and I would have been happy to capture this myself. Now another photo which I just went wow when I saw it, and it was this hawk moth by Simon. I've never ever seen this species before. It's so unique, it's so different. I was intrigued, I was fascinating. The feeding behavior and the composition just add to this image, and it's absolutely fantastic. For me, one of my favorite shots I took, and I took this a long time ago, was of an eastern curlew. Now this isn't a pretty bird by any means, but it's critically endangered and it's really struggling through habitat destruction. So I was stoked to actually capture some shots of this bird. It's got a unique bill. It's got one of the longest bills of any birds. And I captured this in morning sunlight. The bird was walking through the water. We've got a few mangroves. I love the habitat, I love the scene, and I love that subject. All right, so it's time for the final component, and I believe this to be the most important by far. What is it? It's the joy that that photo brings to the photographer. If you look at an image and it evokes joy, happiness, and brings a smile to your face, I can't think of anything else that's more important. So it's the joy that we get ourselves. Each year I ask my members to send me their favorite image, and I ask them to put a little caption about why it's their favorite image. And when I read those captions, I couldn't help but smile, because every single person that sent me an image was happy with their shot. They were so proud of that shot, and I'm honored that you sent me that image. And that's why we take photos, is because it gives us that joy. And I want to share one of those images with you and the story behind it. So Rianne, she's been watching my videos, she's got inspired. She was at work, and to her credit, she took her camera to work. During her break, she's gone out into the busy car park, and there was some bush there, some trees, and she's found a cedar waxwing. So she's gone up to the bird was perched, she's framed it with some leaves behind it, and I'm sure at the time she couldn't wipe the smile off her face. She's taken some shots, and she's captured her favourite shot of the year, which is this cedar waxwing. So in her words, she said, "It's my favourite because I just love the look in his eye, almost like he's wondering who the heck I am." And I agree, it's a great inquisitive pose. And this is what I love about photography. I'm pretty confident when Rianne was taking that shot, she probably wasn't thinking about anything else. She was so focused on taking the photo, she was just lost in the moment, and she was in a flow state. And I think that's what we all understand and we get, and it's very hard to explain to non-photographers that feeling when we get when we're out with our cameras. All right, so we've gone through all those elements, and I'm confident that if you look at your favorite images or you look at images you've seen online, the good images stand out because of these key elements. Have a look at those images and see how many of those elements that they have. Now, I want to share with you an image that embodies everything I've spoken about today. And it's actually taken by my mentor and dear friend, Matthew Jones. Matt's no longer with us, but what we do have are his memorable images to remember him by. And this image that I'm sharing with you now is just incredible, and it's one of my favorite ever images. And that is of these beautiful Australian pelicans. This shot is just jaw-dropping in its mood, its composition, its light, its pose, its story. The IQ is fantastic, it's completely unique, and it's just so engaging that we can't help but look at it. Now I encourage all of you to get out in 2023 with your cameras with these elements in mind, and maybe you will capture an image as good as Matt's Australian pelicans. So thanks again for all the support. Thanks to my members, thanks to everyone who's subscribed. Give it that thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Happy birding, and I'll see you in the next one. A few bonus shots here. I just want to thank my members for sending in all their images. I'm sorry I couldn't share them all, but here's a few more for you to enjoy.